So the Electric Forest lineup for 2023 just dropped, and there's been some mixed emotions, a lot of discussion going on about the lineup, about price increases, amongst a few other things. So in this video today, we're going to review the lineup. I'm going to share some of my thoughts on Electric Forest, about my experience going last year, and kind of share my thoughts on, what's been going on and what they've been announcing as well. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. All right, jumping straight into the lineup, we're going to start off with the headliners, and we're going to run straight through it because we have a lot to get through and a lot to talk about. So, Thursday, we have Odessa, Jamie XX, Sophie Tucker, and Gorgon City. I don't know if it's Gorgon or Gorgon, but I feel like this Thursday is an amazing start to the festival because this is a 4-day festival. Obviously, you can see from the headline there's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And not to mention, if you arrive early, last year I arrived on Tuesday, and man, that was 6 days of partying. Not to mention we drove from California all the way up to Michigan. So we actually took about a week to get there, and we had a week drive back. So I had about 2.5 weeks of straight partying. It was an absolute bender. So one of my big tips for Forest is prepare yourself because, man, it's a bender. It's a long one. It'll be mentally and physically draining, but so worth it. By far my favorite festival. We'll get into some of my thoughts about why I love this festival so much after the lineup, but let's keep moving on to Friday. I'm sorry, my eye is so freaking itchy. Friday, we have Illenium, Griffin, Lane 8, and Ganja White Night, which in my opinion is the best day by far. Obviously, I haven't seen what the Tier 2 and Tier 3 is going to be broken down into by day, but man, that Friday headliner is just amazing. Illenium, Griffin, Lane 8, Ganja White Night. Perfect. That's all I can say. That is just mwah. In my opinion, a lot of controversy on this lineup, and as a huge dubstep fan, this headliners aren't too dubstep heavy, but man, so many good artists and so many vibes. If you're a true EDM fan, you can't not like it. Moving on to Saturday, we have Zed's Dead, Chris Lake, and Chromeo. Again, I feel like I can't complain about too much of this music. Zed's Dead and Chris Lake are amazing. Chris Lake's an amazing DJ. If you actually watch how he DJs, there's a lot going on with his hands, and he's doing a lot. It doesn't sound like much because it sounds so well. Everything just sounds so good together, but he's really doing a lot there on the decks. Definitely would recommend checking out how he plays his music. It's a super good vibe. Same with Chromeo. I feel like something that a lot of people be sleeping on. Definitely got to check him out. So Saturday, good time, no complaints. Moving on to Sunday, we got Above and Beyond, Rez, Goose, and Madion. For me, absolutely love Rez. She killed it at Lost Lands, killed it at EDC. I have nothing bad to say about Rez. And I know whenever she's on a big stage, she throws down. Same with Above and Beyond. It's going to be an amazing vibe at the Forest. I feel like they just fit the Forest perfectly. And then Goose, who I think is the only live band that's headlining this, which I actually don't know what they're all about. Definitely need to check it out. And then finally, we have Madion on the end of the headliners, which, like I said, there's a lot of controversy going on about these headliners, but I have no complaints. I think this is such a vibe, and a lot of my friends have been saying the same thing. Some of the people that have been complaining a lot are more on Twitter and Reddit, etc. I honestly, from my personal group, I have heard no bad things. So that's the headliners. Let's move straight into Tier 2. Moving on to Tier 2. There's a lot of house, a lot of R&B and soul, kind of a lot of vibes on this Tier 2, and we'll get straight into it. We have 070 Shake, who's kind of, like I said, a bit of an alternative rap, R&B soul vibe. Then we have Blondish, Chanel Trey, I don't know. Forgive me, I am most likely pronouncing that horribly. Then we have Chris Lorenzo, and those three are all going to be house sets and all kind of different type of house sets in their own way. Definitely going to be a good time. Then we have Diesel. Obviously, if you're into EDM, you know who Diesel is. Even if you're not into EDM, you know who Diesel is. That's Shaq. I don't even feel like I need to speak on it. Everyone knows Shaq. Everybody loves Shaq. Moving on, we have Emotional Oranges, who, if I'm correct, is also in like the R&B soul kind of vibe. I'm not sure exactly. I've heard some of their music before, but I don't want to be saying, concretely that that's their type of music. Then we have Gashi, who does some hip hop and rap kind of vibes. Hayden James, back to a little bit of the house, melodic house kind of thing. That's a lot of the main theme on this little tier, I noticed. Then moving on, we have Kaiwachi. Again, if you know EDM, you know Kaiwachi. Huge dubstep headliner, super big vibe. Honestly, could be up there as one of the headliners. He's starting to blow up recently. He's been having a lot of good music coming out with a lot of people, and I personally feel like he's got something big coming. I feel like he has a big album dropping soon or something, because he's been a little quiet on his own, but he's been dropping a lot of collabs. Anyway, we have Mwete following up Kaiwachi, and if you don't know who Mwete is, they are a live band and they do EDM with kind of like live music with like trombones and trumpets and saxophones and tubas, and they kind of mix live music with it. If you haven't checked them out, definitely look up one of their YouTube videos or something. They've gone super viral before. I'm sure you've seen it. Moving on, I don't know how you pronounce this name. Apoyo. I feel like that might be right. I don't know. Haven't honestly heard their music before. Haven't seen anything about them, but definitely need to check them out. From what I've heard, they do a little bit of I don't know how to explain it, but like a little bit of like funk, glitch hop kind of vibe. I'm not sure. I need to check them out before I speak on them. Moving on, we have Peekaboo, dubstep, wubsy kind of vibe, experimental dubstep kind of thing. I don't really know what category you'd put him in, but definitely dubstep bass category, and he's a super good time. Great sets. Super happy to see him playing in the Forest. I really wanted to see him play last year in the Forest, and he wasn't on the lineup. So super happy to see him on the lineup this year. Moving on, we have San Holo, who, again, I feel like could be one of these headliners. It's another big name that definitely deserves one of those main spots and is going to be a great vibe in the Forest. Moving on, we have SG Lewis, who I've heard his name several times, but I'm not exactly sure what genre he categorizes himself as. I think that is in like the kind of all alternative R&B pop vibes as well, but I've seen him on a lot of house tracks as well. So I don't know, a little bit of everything. Definitely good, very good artist though. Moving on, Sudden Death doing his Void set again. I feel like another headliner that could be up there on top, and it's Void. Everyone knows that Void set. I feel like even if you've seen it 3 or 4 times, it still is just amazing. So that's going to be super fun. And then finally for tier 2, we have Virtual Riot, who again is a very good bass set in my opinion. Kind of a mix of like Barely Alive and Subtronics. That's just me. I don't know. Drop your opinions down below if you agree, kind of on the same wavelength. I feel like he does a lot of those same vibes. Moving on, we're going to go straight into tier 3. We're not going to cut this. We're doing this all in one take, so I apologize if I mess up on my words or sound stupid. We're just flying through this. And I don't know too many artists on tier 3. There are a lot of hidden gems, but there are also a lot of people I don't know. So if there is something that I missed and I didn't say one of the names, definitely drop it down in the comments. I feel like I will probably end up there. At Forest, I really am just wandering and doing my own thing. So I will definitely probably end up coming in somewhere and being like, oh shit, what's this? And then figuring out, being like, oh, so-and-so commented this on my video. I remember them talking about this, and end up staying for a good little bit. So definitely drop some of your recommendations down. There's so much good music that is being played that I can't get around to all of it. So any recommendations, drop that down below. Let's get straight into tier 3. We have Apache doing a live ensemble, which is great for a lot of the people that don't have much of those live music and jam bands, which is what kind of half of the audience for Electric Forest is really about. They want a lot of that live and jam music, but this is more of an EDM heavy kind of year. I feel like they're doing that because it's just getting so popular. EDM's just so big now in the mainstream, so everyone, is just kind of compelled to throw in a lot of EDM music. But moving on to some of the other artists that I know, we have Champagne Drip, who's another amazing bass set. Don't have much else to say other than that. Good time, good vibes. Then we have Sid or CID. I don't know how you pronounce their name, but they do tech house and they got some fire bangers. I have their music all up in my playlist, so definitely going to be a good time. Then we have Disco Lines, which I know they do like disco music. I don't know exactly what it's categorized as, but I know they're a good time, good vibe. Same with Dixon's Violin. I think he does I don't know if it's he or they or she, but I think that's a live band if I'm correct. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. Definitely gonna check them out. They just have a name that catches my eyes, so gotta peep them. Then to one of the other artists that I know and I'm actually really excited to see on this lineup, I saw and I got hyped. ISOXO, shouts out West Coast, Best Coast, from San Diego. I'm not in San Diego. I pointed like I was here in San Diego. Pointing down because I'm in LA. They're under us. San Diego's down that way. But San Diego, super good, super good set. Super good artist. Does some trap, does some kind of like EDM rap, a little bit of bass house. I don't know how to explain him, but he throws the fuck down. Definitely should check him out. Moving on, we have Jay Wara, who I feel like is also some house and is also a super vibe. I just can't remember exactly why I'm blanking on him right now. I can't think of any of his songs, but I know Jay Wara does some tech house and it's a good time. Moving on from Jay Wara, we got Jansen, who, man, I honestly didn't know much about Jansen up until Lost Lands this year and went and saw his set. I was thoroughly impressed. He threw down a lot of good, wubsy bass, some dubstep, some drum and bass, some bass house. It was a fantastic set. So if you haven't heard of Jansen, definitely check him out. Then, moving on, we have Noizu, who I don't know how the fuck Noizu's on tier 3 of this lineup, but that's beyond me. He should at least be in tier 2. Noizu's such a vibe. Tech house, amazing. No complaints there. Then moving on, we have Rohan, who does some drum and bass, liquid drum and bass kind of vibe. I'm not a huge drum and bass fan, but I know he's actually a fantastic drum and bass act. So recommend checking him out if you're a fan of drum and bass and haven't heard of him yet. Then finally, the last two that I actually know on this lineup are Space Wizard and Zingara, both kind of like an experimental bass kind of vibe and both amazing sets, both up and coming recently in this past year. So I would definitely check those people out. If you don't know, Zingara was actually one of the people that was granted that Excision scholarship that he did a few months back for the up-and-coming new artists, and she took advantage of it. She's been playing at Bass Canyon. I believe she played at Lost Lands. I think Escape as well, and now Electric Forest. So definitely check her out. Same as Space Wizard, both just on that same experimental bass vibe. Super good time, and that's going to do it for the lineup. Let me know down below what you guys think about the lineup. And now let's talk about kind of how everybody's, a little bit of a mixed emotion on Electric Forest at the moment. For the people that have gone, I think a lot of them are very concrete on how they feel about it, and that's how I feel about it. It's not the reason, that other people feel, but it is what it is. I love Forest. It's my favorite festival. And I've heard a lot of people say the same thing. People are hating on the lineup, but if you haven't been to Forest, you don't go to Forest for the lineup. You go to Forest for the vibes. You go to Forest to explore, get lost, and meet some amazing people. It was just an unforgettable experience to me. Honestly, I've been to several festivals, camping festivals, EDC, 2-day shows in SoCal, and nothing compared to Electric Forest, and that is by a long shot. And I don't know if that was because I was with my friends, with my best friends, and we had such an amazing time together too, but that vibe was just unmatched. It was magical. I don't want to sound too cringy and cliche and just be like, it was so perfect, blah blah blah, but I have no complaints about Forest. When I went, top tier. So I understand, there's a lot of people hating on the price increase and whatnot, but they're doing a lot to improve the festival itself. I saw that they released a statement on the Electric Forest headquarters, and they're doing a lot to, increase the size of the campgrounds, increase everything for Good Life. They said they're bringing out more bathrooms, going to be more on top of how quickly they were cleaning the restrooms. And personally, I saw no problems with it this year even. They were on top of cleaning those restrooms every 30 minutes. Every time I went to the bathroom, it was pretty clean, except one instance on around Saturday at like 5 a.m. I remember it was a little nasty, but that was one instance in comparison to a whole weekend. I feel like they were very on top of the bathroom situation, especially for GA. I wasn't sure how Good Life and how all that was, but I also read that they are planning on increasing the, bougie little bathrooms in Good Life and bringing in more showers, etc., etc. They're doing a lot this year to improve the Forest experience itself, rather than just, putting in all this money to grab it back for themselves and to add all these artists to the lineup. I can guarantee that they actually go that little bit of extra mile to try and help out as much as they can. I also read at the headquarters that if you don't have a hydro pack or if you don't have a reusable water bottle, this year they're going to be selling water bottles at the venues for only $1, which you don't see that at any other festival, honestly. You see $4 or $5 for a liquid death, and that shit is disgusting because it's that nasty ass metallic water. So definitely a big step up for this year, bringing $1 water bottles, and I'm sure there's plenty of other things that they're going to announce, and they're obviously going to announce phase 2 of this lineup. And last year, phase 2 announcement was insane. They threw down a bunch of new artists. So trust me, I know it was a lot of extra money where they're adding $100 to the increase and they're adding a car camping pass, but if you compare it to, let's say, Camp EDC, that is nowhere near as bad. And Lost Lands I just went to, if you're paying for a camping pass and the ticket, it gets expensive. So I honestly don't see much of a difference for E-Force compared to much of the other festivals. It's just obviously frustrating seeing that they're increasing the price, but it is what it is. We're, coming into times where everything's getting more expensive. So if you want to complain about that, it is what it is. But, if you've been to Force before, you're probably going to end up going again regardless of the price. So it is what it is. Those are my thoughts on this festival. I will most likely be there. It's going to be tough. I don't know how I did it this year and went to E-Forest and Lost Lands and Base Canyon and EDC. I'm going to drop a video later this week on how I actually afforded going to all of that. But for the time being, I'm going to try as hard as I can to figure out to get to Forest this year as well, because it's my favorite festival and the vibes there are just unmatched. And that's all I have to say on it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out, y'all.